just made a response to the latest investigation that you published on Sunday and that the Globe and Mail followed up with. So here, let's take a look at Mark Carney's response. I have not seen this yet. Let's watch it together, and then I'd love your reaction. Mark Carney on your scoop. Let's take a look.
My colleagues have a story today about a Liberal candidate's relations with China-friendly groups and a meeting that you also held with a pro-Beijing group. So my question is, why did you meet with this pro-Beijing group, Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada? And is the party okay with the fact that Liberal candidate Peter Yan has been so close with the Chinese consulate and China-friendly groups, given the public inquiry into foreign interference, says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group. I've never heard of this group, okay? Never heard of this group. Certainly didn't have a set-up meeting with this group. Full stop. So check your sources before you write things like that, okay? Or your colleagues do. I'm a politician. I go to events where there are hundreds and thousands over the course of a day of different people there. That is not a meeting. If somebody happens to be in the room, takes a picture with me, that's not a meeting, okay? First point. Secondly, with respect to Mr. Yun, this is a person who has served his community for decades. This is a person who's deputy commissioner of the police, okay? A person in discharge of those responsibilities meets with a variety of community groups in the community because that's his job. That's his responsibility. We're proud to have him as a candidate, and I honor his service, including on today.
Wow, there's a lot in there. Sam, you take a first crack at it because there's something I want to point out that might be a little different than your angle. You go ahead. What do you think of that?
Sure, I'm happy to, Ezra. As no journalist in Canada knows more about the entity, Jiangsu Commerce, many of I call them open source research colleagues, have posted pictures over the past years building upon my reports for Global News. That entity in Markham is an entity of business leaders in the Markham community. And so it has, for legal reasons, I'll just say a number of individuals investigated by CSIS at the highest levels in their Toronto election interference story. The group includes an individual that travels to China and meets with the United Front Work Department at a high level. So my comment to Mr. Carney, in his incuriousness or ignorance or deflection, he could have been meeting with individuals already that he knew were investigated by CSIS. They might not have had Jiangsu Commerce Group on their name tag, but if a number of them were in the room with him and they say they were meeting with him under that hat, he, as a Canadian leader, should be aware of that. I would add this. My work has shown that that particular entity is deeply tied with Liberal election, local election riding associations in the Markham area. I could go on, but the people involved there are Chinese community leaders who have a very high level of influence, I'm asserting, in staff placement in the Liberal government. And I'm really getting a chance to unpack the knowledge I've built for the past, 10 years, I'd say 3 years in Toronto. But I do think that in Mr. Carney's dismissive remarks to the Globe and Mail reporter, it shows a level of arrogance and incuriousness that is not becoming of a Canadian leader. And Ezra, if I had 2 hours to speak to you today, I could point to any number, a lot of Liberal candidates in Vancouver and Toronto that have so many levels of meetings with these individuals in Chinese community associations that the RCMP and CSIS repeatedly have told Mr. Carney's predecessor, Justin Trudeau, and his party are there to surround and influence Canadian politicians. So if Mr. Carney doesn't know this, I think he does know this.
Yeah, I think he does know this. Boy, is that interesting. You know, last night, by the way, Sam, I went to a conservative political rally in Brampton. And obviously, the demographics of Brampton are majority minority. So I spoke with a number of people from different backgrounds. And one of the conversations I had that was the most surprising, and frankly, it really changed some of my thinking, was I talked to someone who said he's an anti-Hamas Muslim. He's a proud Muslim, and he doesn't want people to think that conservatives are anti-Muslim, but he says that doesn't mean you have to be pro-Hamas. And he said he's been kicked out of a number of community Facebook groups when he criticized Hamas. And I just listened to this guy, and he's standing right in front of me, and I felt his pain and his loneliness, Sam, because he wants to be a Canadian who's Muslim and has, you know, he's an immigrant here. He wants to be Canadian. He doesn't want the long arm of Iran or other foreign countries or, God forbid, terrorist groups manipulating the community. And I was very touched by what he said to me. And I can imagine it's even stronger in the Chinese community. You have people who've came here. I mean, the difference in personal freedom and choices and political freedom is so different. And yet the Chinese Communist Party has managed to follow them here. And when they see someone like Paul Yuen, they think, oh my God, China's followed me here. But then when they see Mark Carney, someone like you say, who should know better, basically say, there's nothing wrong here. And he used the same line he used with Paul Cheng. If you remember, he said, Paul Cheng has 25 years of policing. I respect that. Well, first of all, I want to know a lot more about that policing, but you can't just say he served his community. He was good enough for the Toronto Police. He's good enough for me. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead, Sam. Looks like you want to make a point. And then I'll make there's one more thing in my mind that really a light bulb went on when Mark Carney answered. But go ahead. I can see you have something to say.
A light bulb went on for me too, because you're right. For a second time, Mr. Carney refers to the police background of his candidate. And Ezra, I'm sorry, if a Canadian police officer were sitting down with a Hell's Angel repeatedly, people would have a problem with it. But what has happened in Canada is because of some sort of parallel society where the Chinese Communist Party is able to secure deep influence, unfortunately, in our institutions and fear over our communities, people like Mr. Yuen and Mr. Chiang, whether through their duty or not, whether because they're in positions of diversity and inclusion and community outreach, it just happens that they end up sitting down, as my photo evidence will show, with individuals in groups called the Hanmen Society. This is a society that I won't ramble on. The US government has sanctioned a high-level individual at the highest levels of organized crime. And I believe that high-level Canadian police officers, whether Chinese Canadian or any other ethnic group, know that very unfortunately community leaders of the Hanmen and other groups are involved in organized crime. So Mr. Yuen, I'm happy to hear from him if he has any concerns of sitting down with those individuals, and if he would look at people from other backgrounds in Canada in policing roles, meeting with people in organized crime and ask them any questions.